Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive. Tonight, we invite you to descend into darkness with a chilling anthology of horror stories. This is episode 44. Let the nightmare begin. The Melody Beneath the Pines. That's not fair, Ethan cried, slamming his large, gray Nintendo DS shut. You cheat. I told you to never use your Blastoise. His level is too high. Logan smirked, though Ethan's voice made him glance at the metallic picnic table across the playground, where Ms. Barrett sat reading some book. I really don't want her to take my game away again, he thought. He closed his smaller, blue DS so that the Pokeball sticker showed on the front and tucked it in between his legs just in case she looked up. No one likes you, you Pokemon freak, Logan said. His limbs shook and his face turned red. For a minute, Ethan thought Logan looked like a red version of the Hulk. He felt a smile coming on, but forced it back. Any more attention would alert Ms. Barrett. Logan just stood over him, fists clenched, but finally just walked away. Ethan sighed, tucking the game system in his pocket. Kids played shark in the sandbox and swung one another on swings. Ethan sighed, staring at them, but then turned away. He had a lot of friends after all, Pokemon. So he brushed dirt off his Pokemon shirt with Ash and Pikachu and sat under the tree nearest the forest on the outskirts of the playground. Acorns hid in the gold and orange, leaf-littered ground, and as Ethan sat his back scraped against the tree's trunk, the boy cast another glance at his teacher before he took the DS out of his shorts pocket. He opened it and pressed the power button, but stopped when he caught something out of the corner of his eye. At first glance, it looked like a yellow speck, though the more Ethan looked at it, the more it looked like a HYPNO. Ethan blinked, expecting for the image to be gone, but there it sat, swinging its pendulum, a gray stone with a hollowed center attached to a string to and fro. Its cat-like ears perked up, and a long nose was nestled between two squinted eyes. Oh, Ethan said, placing his DS on the ground and slowly getting up. The Hypno sat as it was, watching its pendulum go back and forth. Ethan crept toward it, making sure that his foot rose high enough and fell gently as not to make sound. Whenever the Pokemon glanced in Ethan's direction, he darted behind a tree. They are real. I knew it. If only I had a Pokeball. The closer the boy got, the more he noticed some things about Hypno. The first was that the Pokemon's face looked rough and paper-like, almost as though it were made of, what was it Ms. Barrett helped us make our Halloween masks out of? Papier-mâché. And its eyes were more set back, as though Hypno wore a mask. Its skin looked more like a yellow long-sleeved shirt and pants, but it wore no shoes. He kind of looks like a Hypno, Ethan thought. But no more had he thought than he realized that everything looks different in a cartoon than reality. Like how Tom and Jerry looked goofier than a regular cat and mouse. Ethan's foot fell on a twig. The piece of wood broke with a resounding snap. The Pokemon looked up at the boy, its pendulum coming to a halt. Ethan froze. A breeze seemed to carry the sounds of the other children off, so it seemed that only the boy and the Pokemon remained. He expected the Hypno to run, but all it did was tilt its head to the side. Come, little child, come with me. Safe and happy you will be, the Pokemon sang, though its squeaky voice hardly higher than a whisper. Ethan's eyes widened. You can talk, the boy said. You don't even move your mouth. I'm a psychic-type Pokemon, Hypno said. I don't need to speak to talk. With that, he raised a hand and poked his head. Oh, Ethan said. Away from home. Now, let us run, Hypno sang once more, extending a hand. With Hypno, you'll have so much fun. Ethan smiled, taking a step forward. Finally, he had a real, live Pokemon. He could live with Hypno and help train him. Maybe I can even catch more Pokemon with Hypno's help. Ethan, Hypno's eyes narrowed within its deep eye holes. Ms. Barrett had her hands around her mouth, calling for the boy. Ethan raised a hand and turned to follow the other kids back into the primary school. When he glanced back, Hypno was gone. Ethan grabbed his DS and rushed back to class with his classmates, though his thoughts remained on the playground. When the class moved on with the day, taking turns doing activities like drawing or playing math games, Ethan snuck over to the window and stared off into the woods. There was nothing but the swaying trees. Dumb as Barrett, the boy thought. She scared Hypno away. The thought made his eyes water, but he forced them back. He wouldn't cry. Ethan blinked a few times, though when he opened his eyes again and focused them, just at the edge of the trees, he noticed Hypno standing with a slight stoop, swinging his pendulum back and forth. "You are such a fucking idiot." Ethan heard his mother through his bedroom walls. He turned up the volume on his game, laying on his bed and holding the console above his head. "Why? Because I want to leave this place?" his dad said. Ethan placed his DS aside and glanced over at the clock on his bedside table. The clock in the grip of a plastic Pikachu said 10:34 in glow-in-the-dark numbers. Music blared from the game, though he still heard his parents as though they were in the same room. "So, you want to take him away? The one place he's grown up in. You want to take him away from that? He's only 8 years old, for fuck's sake." Ethan rolled off his Pokémon bedspread, allowing his eyes to adjust after playing his video game for close to 3 hours straight. Pokémon posters covered the walls. The only thing that separated them were slivers of light blue wall. He thought of putting in a movie. Maybe that could be louder than the fighting. But then again, he was supposed to be sleeping. Maybe he could draw, but he would need light. Play with his action figures? Made too much noise and needed light. So he just sighed, hopped back into bed, and tucked himself back in. Ethan held the DS back over his head, the light of the game allowing him to see the cuffs of his fleece Pokémon pajamas. Tomorrow will be better, he thought. It's Halloween and the field trip to the caves. A smile crawled across his lips. Then he noticed that his game was the only noise he heard, and his tense little body relaxed. As though on cue, he felt his eyelids get heavy. Ethan moved his hand to turn off the DS, but stopped. He put his game on pause and then opened his Pokédex, the compendium of all the monsters he had caught in the game. He scrolled down the long list until the cursor highlighted Pokémon number 96. A Hypno appeared on the screen, with its yellow skin, squinty eyes, and pendulum. Ethan read the description. It carries a pendulum-like device. There once was an incident in which it took away a child it hypnotized. "I wish you would take me away," Ethan said. He turned off his game, placed it on his bedside table, and closed his eyes. "All right, everyone," Ms. Barrett said. "Be careful. These caves can be very dangerous, so stay behind me and watch where you walk." Ethan took to the end of the line of children, looking around at the towering pines around him. The gold light of autumn shined through the leaves, and the smell of grass and dirt filled him. They walked around a large hole in the ground, which they found as they passed was a cave. The day shined in from an opening at the bottom, and children craned their necks to see the gray stone a yard away. The ground sloped downhill, and as they reached the bottom, the cave mouth stood ready to welcome them. Ms. Barrett entered with the others following her. All of them craned their necks up to see the huge hole that they had just passed. Ethan smiled. He had expected the caves to be more like they are in his game. Brown, geometric, precise. Ms. Rayner muttered something about noticing how they could see erosion where the rock down. Ethan didn't listen, though, just gazed up and around. His gaze fell to the cave opening. He thought he saw a flash of yellow in the woods. Around midday, the class took out their lunches. Ethan found a particularly leafy piece of ground and plopped down. He laid out the tin, Pokémon lunchbox he had retrieved from the bus, and opened it. Inside lay a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, stuffed into a baggie, and a box of Minute Maid apple juice. He sighed. Why does Mom keep making the same lunch? Nevertheless, Ethan grunted and picked up his plastic wrapped sandwich. PST. Ethan glanced around, looking for the one who PST him, but everyone else paid him no mind. It couldn't have come from behind, he thought. There was nothing but woods behind him. Again, Ethan sighed, probably just for someone else. He felt a knot tighten in his chest. Ethan looked up, envying all the children who talked or played together. It was times like these that he wished that he had his Pokémon game. PST. Half behind a tree and half hidden by the green shrubbery stood Hypno, with his stooped posture and swinging his pendulum. Ethan smiled, and after making sure no one was watching him, edged toward the shrubbery. "Hello, little child," Hypno said, cocking his head to the left like a bird. "Hi, Hypno," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice down. "Why did you run away yesterday?" "I don't like adults seeing me," Hypno said. "Why?" "They don't like Pokémon." "Oh," Ethan said, nodding his head. No wonder why Ms. Barrett was always trying to take away his Pokémon game. "What is your name, little child?" "I'm Ethan. Ethan Carter." "Well, Ethan," he said, "I have something to show you." Hypno gestured behind him with his free hand, and then he turned and walked into the forest. Ethan glanced back. As usual, everyone's attention was everywhere but him. He turned and followed his Pokémon into the foliage. The shrubbery clung to Ethan's jeans, making him stop every so often to wrench his legs from the thicket. Hypno walked ahead, his right arm always held out, swinging his pendulum. The smell of wet root made Ethan's nose wrinkle every time he broke a large weed. Sweat formed on the bridge of his nose, and he kept having to wipe it away and push up his glasses. It only took 5 minutes of walking before the two entered a tiny clearing. Hypno stopped in front of a hole in the ground, one like Ethan had seen earlier that day, but smaller, perhaps only a meter in length and width. The boy glanced over his shoulder. He could just see the class and Ms. Barrett past the trees and foliage. Ethan's shoulders slumped a little. "No one is even missing me." The boy forced back a hiccup that seemed to be trying to force its way up, and then turned to see Hypno still staring down. Ethan glanced down into the hole. It looked deep and dark. The smell of wet earth and something else drifted up from it. Ethan wrinkled his nose. "What is that place?" the boy asked. "It's my home," Hypno said. For the first time, Ethan noticed that the Pokemon's voice seemed muffled. "Why do you live in a place like that, Hypno?" "I have no owner," Hypno said. "I have nowhere else to go." "Me neither," Ethan said, though his voice sounded small. There was again that lump in his chest. He wanted to be one of the kids the others played with. He wanted to be one of the kids whose parents never fought and paid attention to them. Tears slid down his cheeks. "No one loves me." "Hypno loves you," Hypno said, bending over to look Ethan in the face. The boy could see every ridge in the Pokemon's mask-like face. Ethan's lip quivered, and he wrapped his arms around Hypno. "I'm so lonely," Ethan said, hugging the Pokemon tighter. Hypno shook the boy, patting Ethan's head with his free hand. "Oh, little child, please don't cry." Hypno wouldn't hurt a fly, Hypno sang, his squeaky voice soothing the boy. "Be free to frolic, be free to play. Come with me to my cave to stay." Ethan pulled away, glancing back into the cave. The sight of it made his stomach churn. "But it's so dark," he said, his voice still trembling. "And it smells weird." "It's all right, Ethan," Hypno said, caressing the boy's head. "I use my psychic powers so that it will keep bad people away. But once we're down there, you'll have so much fun. There are a lot of children just your age down there. We all want to play with you." Ethan gazed up into Hypno's muddy green eyes and smiled. He stepped back, wiping the tears away. "Okay," Ethan said. "Let's go." Hypno held up his pendulum and swung it back and forth. "Now look to me," the pendant calls, Hypno sang. The world darkened around the edges of Ethan's sight as he followed the pendulum. The sounds of the other children, the smells of the cave before him, and the wind brushing against his skin died away. It was as though Ethan and Hypno were the only two in the entire world. Back and forth, your eyelids fall. The boy's eyelids fell, and he drifted asleep. Ethan tried to move his arms, but something held them to his sides. He grunted, moving his head back and forth. He tried moving his feet. They too were bound. Ethan took a deep breath, but coughed. That bad smell, he thought. It's so strong. Then he remembered what the smell was. He remembered time when he, his mother, and his father were happy together and went to the beach or theme parks or on picnics. Once they crossed a dead puppy, and Ethan's father got out of the car and moved it to the side of the road. Ethan had gotten out but had to go back in. He remembered that smell, that sweet smell that made him grimace, of decay. Ethan coughed again. "Hypno," he said. "Where are you?" There was no answer. Warmth ran through Ethan's body. The little hairs all over his body stood straight up. He knew he had to open his eyes, but with that smell and Hypno gone, what is he going to find? The boy shook and whimpered. He took a deep breath, forcing himself not to gag, and opened his eyes. Very little light lit the cave walls. Where the ones the boy had seen earlier that day looked gray, these looked black. Water dripped from the rock, making a dip sound every time a drop fell. He tried moving again, though the ropes bit into his naked body. The hard ground made his back ache. Though the air felt warm, Ethan still shivered. "Elle!" he screamed, but stopped when he saw the rest of the cave. Bones and clothing littered the ground. A little girl's Barbie shirt, a little cap with Seminoles stitched across it. "I just want my mommy and daddy. I want to go home." Tears flooded his eyes, and he struggled more and more. "Help!" he screamed. As he thrashed back and forth, the boy's gaze found Hypno. The Pokémon's stooped silhouette hunched over a lit lantern. "I want to go home, Hypno," Ethan said, his tears leaking into his mouth. "Take me home. I don't like it here." "Oh, little child, you cannot leave," Hypno said, his voice low but squeakier than before. His voice made the boy shiver even more. "For you, your families will grieve. Mine's unraveling at the seams, allowing me to haunt their dreams." "Please," Ethan said. Hypno stood. He swung his pendulum back and forth, but it seemed to shine in the dim light. Each time it would hit the light, it made Ethan squint. Hypno moved closer. "Don't cry, Ethan," Hypno said, speaking in the same low, squeaky voice. Ethan tried to crawl back. Blood ran down his arms and legs. "Do not wail and do not weep. It's time for you to go to sleep," Hypno sang. His voice heightened as he sang, making Ethan scream louder. Hypno's eyes widened, though only a bit of them was visible through the eye slits. "Little child, you are not clever. Now you'll stay with me forever." Hypno's Lullaby, by an anonymous Creepypasta author. Come, little children, come with me. Safe and happy you will be. Away from home, now let us run. With Hypno, you'll have so much fun. Oh, little children, please don't cry. Hypno wouldn't hurt a fly. Be free to frolic, be free to play. Come with me to my cave to stay. Oh, little children, please don't squirm. These ropes, I know, will hold you firm. Now look to me, the pendant calls. Back and forth, your eyelids fall. Oh, little children, you cannot leave. For you, your families will grieve. Mine's unraveling at the seams, allowing me to haunt their dreams. Do not wail and do not weep. It's time for you to go to sleep. Little children, you are not clever. Now you'll stay with me forever. The Forgotten Lift. Nathan Hale sipped at his piping hot coffee, strolling into his office. Placing down his cup, he set to work instantaneously. His coworkers knew of his seriousness for getting papers done and handed in on time, so they rarely spoke with him. Nathan didn't mind one bit. Scrolling down the document he worked on for the past 3 nights, the brunette man's fluorescent blue eyes dashed across each line, revising his work, making sure there were no mistakes. Satisfied with finding no such mistake, he printed the sheets out, quickly standing to retrieve them. As he hurriedly went to the printer, waiting for the 17 pages, Nathan's ear picked up a certain conversation voiced by one of the security guards he knew worked the late-night shift, as well as the owner of the company he worked for. Another one last night, the night guard quietly stated. The boss was silent, grumbling at the confusing news for Nathan. It was a different time like how the others are. I just don't understand why they use it. There's an obvious sign on the doors specifically saying it's out of use. Wish I knew the reason behind it as well, Derek. The night guard was silent as Nathan picked up his papers. Keep up the good work. Nathan moved away, back to his office to finish his hand-in. Nathan's job was creating ideas for advertisement. He had been in this company for a few years, excelling faster than his coworkers. Over the years working here, Derek had been a night guard but frequented the boss's office in the day to hand in reports on some nights. The brunette had witnessed this many a time but brushed it off. This month, he couldn't easily shove it to the side. Being a great observer with the way his personality was, he had noticed over the month a lot of people missing. There was Lena, who worked at the desk across his office door. She usually pestered him about going to lunch and chatting. Not refusing to back down, though, he rejected her as nicely as he could. She worked here for only 5 months. Then she disappeared without saying anything to anyone. He remembered her mentioning something similar, how people were missing from the company. He paid no mind to it until his memory came back of all the people who used to be here. Cade, Will, Jesse, Becca, Ricky, Jean, Clark, Mallory, Avery, Dennis, Florence, and Owen. They didn't have a thing in common that he knew. Never saw all of them together. But then, he didn't know anyone since he kept to himself. People were missing. He wondered who had gone missing this time. Figuring he would find out soon, he finished up his morning work and headed out for lunch. Returning from his meal, Nathan passed by Lena's old desk, glancing at the new name plaque on it. Clara Vaughn, it read. He hummed to himself as he walked into his office, leaving the door open for once. He would watch Clara for a while when he could, not thinking he could be dubbed a creep. The woman didn't notice at all, too busy typing away as she chatted with her desk neighbor, Mark Ellery. Mark was a comical guy. Nathan overheard many conversations with him dropping jokes at the correct times. If memory served correctly for the brunette, Mark had worked just as many years as Nathan. He wasn't so sure. Pushing his thoughts away, he began writing another advertisement campaign. Night soon came and Nathan compiled his gear together. He was ready to leave within 7 minutes. Briskly walking to the elevators, he noticed 1 out of the 4 holding a sign. Out of order. He read aloud. The morning talk between Derek and their boss came back to the front of his mind. Could this be what they were talking about? Now that he thought of it, it had been out of order for nearly 4 years now. He wondered why no one would try to fix it. Shrugging it off, he went to the last elevator on the right and descended down to the lobby floor. The next morning, he came in earlier than he was supposed to. He noticed Derek packed up and ready to head out, but stopped him before he could reach the entrance doors. Derek blinked, surprised that Nathan came up to him. "Is there something wrong, Mr. Hale?" Nathan stared at him, analyzing him to see if anything like what supposedly happened yesterday night occurred again. He couldn't find anything. "No, nothing's wrong." The guard nodded, standing awkwardly as he stared at the other. "Do you remember a woman by the name of Lena Morrell? Her desk is where Clara Vaughn now resides." Yes, I do." Fluorescent blue eyes scanned him over again. "Do you know what happened to her?" At this question, Derek paled, lips sealed tight in thought. Nathan instantly picked up on his reaction and continued to wait for a reply. "I do not, sadly. She was a sweet woman, though. Bright as well." Nathan nodded, agreeing. Was, as in because she is no longer working here, or was as in she has possibly passed on? The security guard's complexion worsened. "Have a good day, Mr. Hale." He nodded a goodbye and dashed out of the doors. He found that strange, but one question was nearly answered. Whatever happened to Lena, she was either gone and somewhere else in the world or gone for good. His long legs quickly made way for the elevators. Nathan checked the far left one and saw the sign was there as well. An urge to use that elevator rose within him, but he opted for the one he usually used. Nathan walked onto his floor, the topmost floor of this 70-story building, and gazed at all the desks. He went around, remembering exactly where all the past coworkers sat and hung around. Kate sat next to Mallory, who always talked with Jean across from her. There was a time where the young woman didn't show up to work one day, which turned into weeks, then months. He realized years had passed since he last saw Mallory. Jean never talked much once Mallory went missing. Lena was the first one he remembered coming to him and asking about the other workers who hadn't showed for a while. She was there when Avery was. They were good friends. Her worry for her exceeded the limits when she asked around about her. "I've been asking around about Avery, but no one remembers her." "How can that be? Please tell me you remember her." Nathan. She sounded desperate as she stared at him, pleading for him to say he did remember. He didn't. The next thing he knew, Lena was gone. It was only 2 days after she went around the floor asking about Avery. Questions revolve around his mind, now wondering what happened if the same thing occurred to Lena. Sitting at his desk, he turned on his computer and decided to research on the missing people he remembered. Time passed with his research. People started coming in, not giving him any attention as usual, though the outburst from his room shocked many nearby. Nathan was furious. He couldn't find anything on any one person he knew before in this building. A knock shocked him out of his thought process. It was Clara. "Are you okay, Mr. Hale?" she asked, concerned. He stared at the woman. She fidgeted in her spot. "Yes, I am, Miss Vaughn. Sorry to have bothered you." He closed out of the browser, deciding it was best to leave it alone and get some work done. Clara only shook her head, saying she wasn't bothered, only concerned. He merely passed by her as he left his room for the boss's office. The hefty man sat at his computer, eating a donut, not expecting Nathan to walk in and sit in front of him. With a raised brow, he asked, "Yes, Mr. Hale? I was wondering about Miss Lena Morrell. Do you remember who she is?" Blunt and straight to the point, Nathan stoically gazed at Mr. Barlow. Mr. Barlow's brows knitted together. Unsure of the name, though, he felt he heard it before. "I do not. Is she your girlfriend?" The old man grinned. "About time you got one," he joked. Shaking his head, Nathan spoke. "No, she isn't. She used to work here. I was just wondering if you knew where she went." "Oh, well then. I do not remember any employee with that name, and I remember all the employees I've hired." The man boasted about his memory, only for Nathan to mentally disagree. "Okay." He stood, knowing full well the man didn't remember anyone who had gone missing. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Barlow." Nathan left without looking back. He didn't need to. His research continued, though he knew it was futile. He kept searching for the names with a specific picture attached to them. No such luck. Nathan wasn't one to give up, though. He kept at it for days. At home, during free time at work, on his phone on breaks. He was so busy looking things up that when he returned from his lunch break, he didn't realize he got off the wrong floor. Nathan strolled around, eyes on his cell, until a worker came up to him. "Mr. Hale, so nice of you to visit our floor." He blinked, looking up and seeing a fellow acquaintance of Lena's. He remembered the man used to go out with Lena in place of him when he rejected her. "My name's Ryan." He continued speaking. "I know you don't know me, but, well, I know you because a friend of mine was obsessed with you." He chuckled. "She was sort of loony, but I still like being with her. Sad she's gone, though. Don't know what happened to her." He stuffed his hands in his pants pockets, mulling over his lost friend. The brunette didn't hesitate to ask, "Who was your friend?" "I don't remember." Ryan hummed. She had shoulder-length blonde hair, though, and fetching green eyes. "I feel bad not remembering her name. Could have been Lena." Thinking about it, Ryan nodded. "That sounds about right, but I don't know." He shrugged. "Wish I could remember." Glancing behind himself, he smiled. "I need to get back to work. Nice chatting with you, Nathan." He watched as the energetic man fled to his work desk. He stared, wondering if it wasn't just his floor that people were missing on. As more questions popped up into his head, he went back to the elevator. The next few days, he spent some time on other floors. He randomly approached people and asked them if they had noticed anyone missing from their floor. Out of the bunch he questioned, only a handful could say they remember descriptions, but not names. The puzzle pieces were beginning to fall slowly into place, but the main question still needed to be answered. Derek avoided him at all costs since Nathan made the habit of arriving when his shift ended. The brunette took every chance he could get to confront the man that knew more than he would tell, but each try failed. One day, though, he went towards the out-of-order elevator, about to press the button. "Don't go on that elevator." Nathan turned around, wide-eyed. Derek's face was full of panic. "Whatever you do, don't go on that elevator. It's dangerous, and not just because it's out of order." Nathan raised an eyebrow at that. "Is there something about this elevator only you know about, Derek?" The security guard froze. I've been doing my research on the people I know who are no longer here. There are no. You shouldn't do that. Derek interrupted. You should just forget about it all. Forget about them. It's safer that way for you. What? Just believe me, Mr. Hale. He sighed. You're a really great man. It would be a shame for you to wind up like them. Nathan's eyes narrowed at him. Shit, I said too much already. He skedaddled as fast as he could. Nathan cursed under his breath, taking one last look at the elevator for that morning and going to his regular one. This night was a late night for Nathan. With his mind on researching the missing people, he strayed behind on work. The entire day, he did project after project, trying to get all of his work done so he wouldn't need to stress about it. When he was finished, he packed up all his work, neatly set everything on his desk for tomorrow, grabbed his coat, and walked to the elevators. He instantly noticed something different. The far left elevator no longer had its sign. Curious, he walked over to see if it fell down since it was taped up. He couldn't find it. Humming to himself as he stroked his chin, he didn't expect the doors to open. He jumped at the sudden beep of the elevator, signaling its arrival. He peered in once they were fully open, then slowly crept in. From the looks of it, it was an ordinary elevator with a different interior design. He complimented the maker, but then soon found an odd indentation on the metal wall. 2 steps closer, he took to further examine it. There were 4 long streaks of what could be called fingers. The palm, a big oval C underneath the streaks. It was too big to be a human hand, that's for sure. So what could have made this? He reached out to finger the indentation, only to jump as the doors closed with that same eerie ding. Nathan tried to get out before they could fully close. He didn't make it. Sighing, he leaned against the wall after pressing the circle button for the first floor. He waited for what he knew would be a few long minutes. Nothing out of the ordinary was happening. The ride was slow and relaxing. He closed his eyes only to open them back up when the elevator lurched to a stop. Furrowing his brows, he looked at the floor number. It said 66. He looked down at the buttons to press the first floor again, but soon saw that the 6th floor button was lit up. Nathan isn't a religious man, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know that devilish things are out there. He backed away from the panel of buttons into the metal wall. The feeling he felt as he looked at the numbers wasn't good. Waiting for the elevator to continue its descent, he stood there, staring. It wouldn't move. He began to worry. What was going to happen to him? He knew he didn't live a fascinating life, but he got by fine. What could be the connection with this elevator? A sudden memory that was a year ago popped up. He had brought up this elevator, asking why it was never repaired or taken out. The group he asked was surprised to hear him speak, but speculated as well. Guesses were thrown out here and there, but one struck him. I heard that elevator was torn out of the building before, but wound up being put back for unknown reasons. The repairmen also wouldn't go near it. Maybe it's cursed or something. The group laughed, but Nathan thought on it. It made sense to him now. If the elevator was cursed, what was the curse on it? Nathan's ears twitched as the elevator speaker turned on, static flowing out. It was just a buzzing sound at first, but then became an uproar. He covered his ears, shielding them as best he could. He picked up 2 words, though, even with his ears clogged. Going down. The spoken voice sounded gravelly, like the person lost his voice box but still spoke. Very hoarsely. Nathan shivered. The elevator soon began to move again, slowly at first, soon accelerating. The brunette gripped the bars for his life, only to be pushed off into the middle of the floor. He glanced behind himself, eyes widening the instant he saw what pushed him. A creature, black foggy appearance with a red outer line to it. Its hands were huge, the same size as the indent on the other wall. It loomed over the scared man, showing a red grin with yellow glowing teeth. Last stop, the speaker said with the same voice. Nathan trembled on the floor, backing away as far as he could. The creature followed him, placing its hand in the same spot as the indent. The terrified man now understood what happened to the other people that went missing. They went through the same fate he was going to end with. The only question he wanted an answer to now was, Why these specific people who were instantly forgotten? He clenched his eyes shut, ready for his death. Only it didn't come. He was too afraid to open them, but did once the elevator fell off its tracks. He slammed against the ceiling. His skin rippled with the force of air against him, close to tearing thin sheets of it off. The pain was unbearable. Nathan wished for this to stop, for him to get off and go home. No such luck would come to him. The creature materialized through the elevator and engulfed him. The next day, Derek, pale as a sheet of paper, went to Mr. Barlow for another report. He stood at the door, wringing his hat. The boss took one look at him and knew instantly that it happened again. A fist pounded his desk. He was livid, but didn't know why. He couldn't remember who the person was. The name Derek spoke of belonged to. Clara Vaughn peered into the empty office of the previous employee who worked in it, wondering what could have happened to him. Knowing that he never missed work, she frowned, worried about him. As she went back to her desk, she slowly sat down. Thinking it over, she knew something was wrong. Nathan Hale. Who was that again? Whispers of influence. I have reached the top. I have become the molder of other people's destinies. What began as a reluctant career I only embarked upon to please my father has ended with me becoming so glorious. I feel like I could do anything. No, I know that I can do anything. They will make sure of that. Yes, I mustn't forget where I came from. I couldn't have done it without my friends, after all. They recognized talent when they saw it. They brought me to a place I never thought that I could go. And now, there is no limit to what we can accomplish together. Let me start from the beginning. My father, Victor Crow, was a hard man, but a fair one. My brothers and I, he was always trying to bring out our inner potential. We got no dinner until our homework was done. We got no time with friends until the house was completely spotless. For every word spoken out turn by one, each of us lost a toy. Competition comes naturally to me now. That's another thing that Father made sure of. One of his favorite teaching devices was to give each of us $200 on his birthday as our only present. Mother wasn't allowed to get us anything. Mollycoddling the boys will just lead to the grown-up world trampling them, he always told her. The money would be hidden somewhere in the house, and we had a race to find it. The one who got to the money first got to keep it whether it was his birthday or not. Landon was the biggest and fastest of us, so he tended to get the money on most of our birthdays. He got on almost all of mine, actually. Father always told me that I should try to learn from my brother instead of envy him, and then maybe I would get the money one day. One year when Landon won, I cried. I had to spend the night on the basement floor because those who show weakness end up there. That didn't feel fair at all. I almost found the money that time. It was only because Miles pushed me down. Father beat him, though, so I guess that evens everything out, though Father always told us never to expect anybody to make your life fair for you. That was the year that I decided to even the playing field myself with Landon. I waited for him after his football practice. I was so proud of myself for gathering the materials from behind the department store. Landon never saw it coming when I sprang my trap. All I had to do was cut the rope when he stepped on the cover board. The lawnmower blade sprang up, and he was in the hospital for a knee laceration. That was a week before Julian's birthday, so I was easily able to muscle my way past him and Derek and that cheap shot taking Miles to find the money. It was the first time in a couple of years that I actually got it, unless memory fails me. I'm having a hard time recalling things at the moment. I thought I was going to get in trouble as the police brought me home, but Father was actually proud of me, even though Mother tried to scold me behind his back. He called me a true competitor with a killer instinct and gave me $100 more. He took it all back when he caught me spending it on comic books after I got out of juvenile hall, though. When it came time for college, I didn't want to go into real estate. I love competition, but selling houses just sounded boring to me. I thought there would be more opportunities to make him happy as a scientist or an engineer. Father wanted me in real estate because the market was so hot, though. I taught you to have the heart of a killer. Now you need to know how to mold people and subtly get them to do what you want. The art of persuasion, of making a man think he has a choice but robbing him of it at the same time. That's what the real estate game will teach you. That's why I've decided that you'll get your business degree and then go to work for my old friend Harold Drake. Don't let me down. My first few days at Drake Realty were kind of an odd situation, if memory serves. The people there were all nice to me and not very demanding at all. One of the women in the office, Clara Vance, even smiled at me once or twice. I had never had a girlfriend before, to my shame. Maybe this would be the chance for me to sire an heir to the family name. With all my training from father, I should have been able to blast past my so obviously weak colleagues and become the top seller in the agency within a month. But nothing I tried seemed to work. If I tried to use toothpaste to cover nail holes in the walls, or paper and plaster to disguise an unsightly hole, then one of the buyers would happen to be a trained contractor who saw right through all my careful work. If I tried to lie and fast-talk my way around a house's criminal past, then the seller would just happen to be a retired psychology professor and would rather loudly whisper to her husband that I was trying to bullshit them. I wound up skipping Thanksgiving and Christmas. I just couldn't look father in the eye. All my brothers were succeeding at their chosen fields. I just couldn't understand it. Clara tried to cheer me up. She told me that she herself had a lot of trouble flipping houses at first and that I should just resolve to try harder next time, and that I shouldn't be too hard on myself. Nothing helped, though. How could she possibly understand the pressure I was under to succeed? She hadn't even met my father. I began to drink, another failing that father would send me to the basement for if he knew about it. Calling in sick came to be code for ready to pass out by 10 a.m., and everyone at the agency knew it. For father's sake, Mr. Drake bore with me for far longer than he should have, but eventually he had to let me go. After a month or two, even Clara stopped calling. I lost my apartment and wound up living on the street. As a homeless panhandler, I was able to use my meager skills at playing on people's sympathies to get money out of them. So at least I wasn't going hungry yet. However, winter was bearing down, and it looked like my only alternative was to go crawling home to father. It was getting late, though. The buses had stopped running for the night. I took shelter from the cold in the old Delphi Theater. As I curled up in the balcony, trying to keep myself warm with my coat and some old threadbare curtains, I began to feel an odd sensation. It was like being brushed by the softest feather boa. It was warm, too. Winter's chill melted away, and I felt like I was surrounded by a gentle cloud of sweet-smelling steam at just the warmth of a nice hot bath. Then came a voice sounding like it came from everywhere at once. It's hard to describe. The closest I can say is that it was both inside my head and outside of it. "Hello, Ethan," said a light, sonorous voice. "We've been watching you. We've been with you your whole life." I wanted to say something to ask the voice what it was, but I was just so warm and the voice seemed kind and assuring somehow. "We were with you in the alley when you lay in wait for your brother. We were with you as you slept in the basement. We were watching you as you tried to sell houses. We know everything about you, Ethan. We have finally come to bring you your destiny. We have come to embrace you, and you will never be cold again, Ethan." I lay there half uncomfortable and half numbed by the ecstasy of what were now thousands of massaging caresses. The voice told me things about myself that no one else should know. It told me things I had only discussed in private with Clara. I mustered up my strength as though I was pushing off many layers of wet blankets and said, "Okay, this has gone far enough. Who are you, and how do you know these things about me? Show yourself." The voice chuckled and said, "We know these things because we have been living in you. You are our beloved host, and now that we have grown to our full potential from observing you, the time has come for us to help you. Come with us, and we will show you how great you truly can be." What happened next is even more difficult to describe. I don't think I was possessed or otherwise out of control of my faculties, and yet it was as though the warmth brought me to my feet and began marching me forward and then out the door. Perhaps it was a dissociative state. I have no idea. Either way, not only was it now snowing outside, but I left my coat back at the balcony. "Don't worry, you won't need it anymore. We'll be your warmth now. You could walk in this weather naked and you wouldn't feel a thing," the voice said. I felt myself breaking into a jog. I can only imagine what passing motorists must have thought. Thank God it was night and there were no pedestrians. The voice was right, though. I felt like I was inside, sitting in front of the fireplace. I soon found myself outside the office building that houses Drake Realty. "Go on in," said the voice, and I couldn't believe my actions as I began smashing through the glass. "We'll leave a note explaining the damage," said the voice. "You won't be punished. You might want to order those security cameras to turn off, though." Without thinking, I looked up at the camera in the corner of the room and said, "Off." The entire row of little red lights flickered to darkness. I walked up to the powered-down elevator and knew what to do. I commanded it down. It opened with the lights on inside and ready to go. We arrived at Drake Realty on the 5th floor and broke in. The voice said, "You will find your blazer and paperwork in Drake's office. All your access is still valid. Call a taxi and instruct the driver to take you to the address listed within." True to its word, the voice had me leave 2 very nice letters of apology to the building manager and to Mr. Drake. The cab took us to our next destination, the Harrington home in fashionable Wheelock's Grove. The Harringtons' asking price was high even for that neighborhood, and no one in the agency had been able to sell it yet. Upon my breaking into the house, the voice said, "Now you will wait until dawn. In the meantime, you will learn to sleep as we do." Before I could get a word out, the warm sensation became boiling hot. I felt myself grow faint, but I was able to keep my eyes open long enough to get an idea as to what it was going to do to me. I was falling. I was somehow sinking down into the floor like in a bog. No, not into the floor, into the space between the floorboards almost. It was as if I was melting away into the space between molecules. I know how crazy that sounds. I awoke the next day asleep on the couch in the Harrington home as though nothing had happened. I could only remember a night of hot pain. Apparently, I had had terrible nightmares while on the floor, but the details faded from memory after a few seconds of being awake. For a second, I wondered if I'd dreamed the last couple of months completely. Perhaps I had fallen asleep in the Harrington house waiting to meet buyers one day. That illusion was dispelled by the familiar voice saying, "Call the Whitmans. You will now sell them this house." What? There's no way I can sell the horror. You can. We will show you how, the voice said in its most comforting tone yet. "As I told you the last time we were up here," said a bleary-eyed Mr. Whitman as I met the couple on the doorstep, "we are very interested in the house, but if your seller can't budge on the price, we're going to have to walk." I wiped the sweat from my brow and searched for the right words. I felt the warm sensation and the feeling of caresses returning, and suddenly the right words just sort of came to mind. "Yes, well, I think if you'll come in for a moment and sit down, I can show you something new that may make you willing to meet our price," I said. "Well, I don't know how you did it, son, but by gum, I'm convinced. We can't afford not to take this house," said Mr. Whitman after I'd spent the past half hour drifting in and out of haze. I snapped back to reality. "Splendid. The Harringtons will be so happy to hear this." I don't know how I did it. Did whatever the voice represented possess my body, or was it right in saying that the potential was all in me? It almost felt as if we were taking turns, tag-teaming the Whitmans. I can't really remember what I said, though. "Now you know what powers we offer," it said. "After observing you for a lifetime, we know how to unlock your true potential. Give yourself to us, and we will make all your dreams come true." Even after all it had done for me up to that point, I still shuddered when the voice said that. Something about this still didn't feel right. I began to recognize a different voice deep down inside. It was telling me that I was in danger. I ignored it, though. I wanted this power. I didn't want to jeopardize it. Over the next few months, I was astonished at what happened. Not only did Harold Drake and the owner of the building not press charges, but Drake hired me back almost as soon as I walked through his office door that day. It was like he'd been bewitched. The Hensley account, the Dalton account, then Gwynn account. I blazed through all the toughest acquisitions that the agency had. Each of the negotiations went by in the same haze. They all folded as easily as Mr. Whitman had, too. Even Clara seemed to be strangely under my power. We've been together for almost a year now, and she only yesterday told me that she was pregnant. I'm in awe of how much the voice has done for me and through me. It even seems to have patched up my relationship with Father. Once I told it that I would give myself to it and remain its forevermore, it actually got my father to say he was proud of me. I could have fallen down dead. I still can't believe that actually happened. And each night, I sank into the floorboards. Each night brought the pain of another nightmare that I could not recall the next day. It still didn't make sense to me why something good for me could be so painful. My conscience still bothers me sometimes, but I tolerate the pain because each day I awake completely refreshed and feeling even more powerful than the day before. So now it's whatever that means. We are here in the Fairchild house in good old Wheelock's Grove, waiting for the clients. As usual, I can't really recall anything, but I get the sense that last night's sleep was even more painful than usual. The voice reassures me it's nothing, though. I believe it. I've grown to trust the voice with my life, actually. The voice has come to mean even more to me than Clara. It means more to me than Mother or my brothers. It means even more to me than Father, if that's possible. Don't worry. Rest. Forget your pain. We'll take care of everything. Sleep now. We can sell this house for you now. We know you so well, Ethan. Just relax. Ethan Crow's body was never found. All that the only witnesses, a young married couple by the name of Carter, found at the scene was a discolored section of the floor that they claimed emitted a feeling in the air around it that was like being brushed with a sweet-smelling feather boa and embraced by an all-pervading warmth. Although the house has since become something of a tourist attraction for paranormal enthusiasts, it is the opinion of this detective that the case is an unsolved disappearance pending future evidence. As a side note, it is worth mentioning that Crow's girlfriend at the time of his disappearance, one Clara Vance, has reported a feeling that she is constantly being watched and that her home is full of unexplained warm spots and feathery sensations sounding like those described by the Carters. It is recommended that police surveillance be immediately offered to Ms. Vance if it has not already. She or her unborn child may be in some kind of danger. The Workshop of Shadows. Perpetual darkness lingered at the top of the world. Thick ice, frigid air, and snow covered the lifeless mountainscape. However, the endless night did not go unchallenged. A single source of light illuminated the sky and drove back the darkness. Nestled between two snow-covered mountains, a little cottage sat with puffy, billowing smoke rising from its chimney. Ignoring the fact that the nearest civilization was thousands of miles away, to the casual eye, the house was simply a warm and welcoming home. Still, one might say to themselves, what an odd thing to find in such a bleak place. How could such a thing come to be? Like most things found in the North Pole, not everything is as it appears. The land was unforgiving and cruel. It could take your life within minutes. Only a select number of creatures were given permission to live in this harsh and relentless wilderness. All others who entered this domain did it of their own accord, such as the residents of this tiny little home. However, these individuals were like no other. With a little bit of magic at their disposal, they lived happy and joyful lives. At first glance, it would appear it was nothing more than a simple, ordinary home inhabited by an elderly couple who loved each other dearly. If this were your conclusion, you would be mistaken. In reality, a magical secret existed below, for the small house was much more than meets the eye. The little house was not just a home, but the tip of a mystical workshop hidden beneath the ice. For centuries, children around the world found joy from the efforts of the hidden workshop. All year round, tiny magical hands toiled and labored to create toys and playthings for all the good children of the world. Elves, the last of the magical creatures from old, dwelt within its walls and used their mystical nature to create wondrous and joyful things for Christmas morning. 3 days after the winter solstice, the old man would put on his heavy coat and boots, take to the air, and deliver his Christmas joy to every last child. Like everything in the cosmos, there must be a balance. For every night, there must be a day. Every beginning has an end. And with every kind child, there was a naughty little boy or girl to be found. Far below the bright lights, singing and happy elves creating and building new and fantastic toys, there was another workshop. There, the warmth of the hearthstones could not reach. While the purpose of the upper workshop was to bring happiness, the other was dark and sterile. It too had a purpose. It was here where the masses of cheap and easily broken toys were made. There was no love put into these objects. Never would a child's eyes brighten with wonder and awe upon seeing these gifts on Christmas morning. In his wisdom, the old man knew that even a naughty child should not be forgotten during this time of goodwill. However, the old man was no fool and had no desire to waste his resources on such unsatisfying tasks. This responsibility was handed to the banished and exiled elves that inhabited the deepest bowels below the workshop. Those with selfish hearts and greedy desires. Stripped of their immortality, they wasted away in the dark with only the trinkets and flimsy materials to pass the time. Malric Vorin sat in the poorly lit corner of a tattered workbench. His focus was entirely devoted to the old and worn piece of brass in his hands. The clangs of his hammer hitting metal rang out and echoed through the dark halls and passageways. He pounded the brass sheet relentlessly until the metal slowly began to surrender its shape and bend to Malric's design. Suddenly, the hammer flew out of the mad elf's grasp. He examined his limp hand, trying to will it back into his control. Fury filled his heart as he watched the necrotic flesh sloughed off his bony hand. He didn't have much time. His other hand was weak, but still capable of grasp. He reached into his toolbox and removed a long warped nail. He stabbed it into the back of his paralyzed hand. He pushed on a nail head until its tip broke through the skin and emerged through his palm. Immediately, the pain surged and shot up his arm. The thick and rigid tendons loosened within his hand, giving him temporary use of his digits once more. The elf picked up his hammer and resumed molding the shape of the brass plate. With each impact upon the brass, he poured his rage into his creation. How ironic that the product of his tireless work was meant for the ones he hated the most. His deteriorating body was fading fast. He possessed just enough magic to fuel the curse he would cast upon the object. When finished, his gift would be placed with the other junk toys and cheap trinkets. It would make its way to them and find a child on Christmas morning. The curse would take hold and slowly begin tearing apart their lives. It would channel their essence back to him and reignite his immortality. The object would pass from one child, then to another, century after century. He had just enough magic left to evoke his curse. Malric had once lived and worked above. Like any other elf before him, he loved nothing more than to create beautiful and wondrous toys and gizmos. However, in his heart, he wished that he could keep some of his creations for himself. One day, his eyes fell upon a beautiful music box his friend Kalen Thurn had created. The music box was extraordinary, meant as a gift to a king's firstborn. It was magnificent. Crafted from oak wood, it bore an elaborate gold design on each of its sides. When opened, a figurine of 3 children danced hand in hand to a beautiful lullaby around a magnificent Christmas tree. Malric Vorin had never desired anything more in his entire life. It filled his heart with jealousy. He became resentful that this precious and rare treasure would go to an undeserving human infant. The little girl didn't deserve it. It should go to him, he thought. So, under cover of darkness, Malric slipped into the work area and took the music box. Unable to sleep and anxious to put the finishing touches on his prized creation, Kalen Thurn decided to return to the workshop. To his surprise and shock, he caught the elf attempting to steal the special music box. Kalen was enraged, for greed and thievery amongst elves were extremely offensive and not tolerated. Malric begged his friend not to report his transgression, But Kalen was unmoved by the pleas and turned to tell the others of Malric's crime. Desperate, Malric did the only thing left for him to do. He grabbed a hammer and brought it down on his friend's head over and over again until no more life remained in the broken body. Despite his meticulous efforts to conceal his crime, he could not escape the sight and wisdom of the old man. Humiliated and dishonored, the elf was banished from the workshop, and his precious music box was taken from him and given to the little princess. Stripped of his immortality, Malric Vorin was cast into the cold and dark corridors of the other workshop to spend his remaining days, never to create a beautiful thing again. As the seasons passed, his hatred for all children grew and ate away at his sanity. He gritted his teeth knowing that the children of man were given everything and he had nothing. Hunched over his work, Malric feverishly worked to complete his masterpiece. He stared down at the anvil and hammered down on the brass. Each strike brought the faces of a child into his mind. It lives in warmth. The blunt hammer formed the metal into a hollow cylinder. It stuffs its face with sweets and treats. Stumpy legs were welded into place. It gets everything it asked from Mummy and Daddy. A malformed head and crooked ears took shape. It gets anything its little heart desires. The brass surface was scrubbed of debris and grime. It gets everything it wants. Small turquoise stones were affixed to the brass body. I hate it. One glimmering red ruby stone was bound to the left side of the figurine's head. I hate it. Finally, a second red ruby was embedded into the surface on the face's other side. I hate them all. In the glow of the fire, Malric held up the brass figurine. It was a disturbing representation of a hare. Its body was a lattice of crisscrossed brass strips bejeweled with a pale blue turquoise stone at each intersection. Its head was malformed and gave the impression of a dead thing instead of a pleasant hare full of life. He placed the atrocious thing upon an open silver locket that contained a mirror on each of the hinged inner sides. With the hare figurine facing one of the mirrors, he carefully opened a vial that held a clear fluid. It was lymph. The lymph from an elf was the source of magic that flowed through their bodies like that of blood from the second set of unique arteries found within its own circulatory system and pumped by a very special second heart. Only a few tiny drops fell out of the vial. It splashed onto the figurine and mirrored locket, illuminating them with a golden glow. Malric closed his eyes and spoke the words of wormwood in his elven tongue. The clear liquid turned black and stained the surface of both the hare statuette and silver locket. The glow turned a deep purple, then slowly faded. Pleased with the outcome, he gently placed a cloth over the object without making eye contact to obscure it from sight, and ever so carefully placed it in a small box decorated with holiday cheer. Finished with his work, Malric turned to leave, pushing past the corpses of several elves hanging upside down from the support beams of the other workshop. Their lifeless bodies drained completely of every last drop of magical lymph from slit throats. Malric's calculation had been correct. He had just enough magic to fuel the curse placed on the object. The mad elf smiled and began to laugh. For the first time in a very long time, Malric Vorin's heart filled with anticipation at the approach of Christmas morning. The little girl sat in a large pile of torn wrapping paper from the many gifts she found under the Christmas tree. On the morning of December 22nd, Lydia awoke earlier than everyone else. She went downstairs and glared at the many presents that continuously tempted her. It was as if they teased and mocked her every time she looked at the colorful and beautiful wrapping paper. She would receive such a terrible scolding from her parents, but she couldn't wait any longer. At first, it would only be one gift she opened. Then it became two, then another and another. Before she knew it, all of her presents had been opened. Despite getting everything she asked for, the desire for more still was not satisfied. When Lydia stood, a small gift next to the base of the Christmas tree caught her eye. She could have sworn it had not been there before. The wrapping paper was worn and yellowed with age. Written in big words was a tag that said, to Lydia Rose. It was like no other, and she surely would have seen it before now. Puzzled, she removed the wrapping paper and found a box that contained a smaller sealed box and a scroll. She opened the scroll and read, "Congratulations, lucky one. You are the proud owner of Nox, the hare. Nox loves you and will be your best friend in the whole world. Nox is a friend like no other, and he will give you everything your heart desires. To be Nox's friend, you must listen to him and never disobey the following instructions. Place Nox on his locket facing the mirror. Never look Nox in the eyes. He is ever so bashful and only likes to see you through his mirror. You may ask anything of Nox 3 times. In 3 days' time, he will grant any and all you asked of him. Never look Nox in the eyes. It bears repeating. He does not like it and will be upset if you disobey this rule. Remember, lucky little boy or girl, Nox loves you. He loves you more than anyone else in the whole wide world. Nox will make sure that no one will hurt you ever again. And if you love Nox, you will listen to him and do whatever he asks of you. Nox loves you, and no one can ever come between you and him. Nox loves you."
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.